Hello, welcome back to Get Well Soon, the red pill content of Welly F, aka Moriarty, where the mindset is you either die a villain or you live long enough to see yourself become a simp. And today's episode is brought to you by a black male white knight that is not myself. This is why I started this episode. This is why I started this content. This is why I started like this sort of a venting session, because I wanted people to understand that as a black male that, we're definitely falling victim to feminism as a whole. We're falling victim to progressivism as a whole. And I noticed it around 2006, 2015, 2016, where it got real bad, and it just never hit me up until maybe about a year ago. And I'm one of those guys, I'll say it time and time again, I prefer to consider myself more of a red pill guy than a MGTOW, incel, any of that other stuff, simply because I think that my understanding of society is more of an awakening. So I identify with the red pill portion of that, and I don't necessarily solely consider myself a man going his own way, but a lot of their ideologies align with mine based on the fact that I can understand totally why dude just says, screw this, I'm gonna isolate myself from the feminine imperative. I just think that as a man that has to actually deal with women on a day-to-day basis, as far as the job life, and just being a parent, it's hard to avoid those things. So obviously from time to time I will be in the presence of a female. But even with all that, I still believe that this time in this time period, more than ever, is a time for pro-male activity. This is not a time to drag down men and bash men, because one thing that I've noticed over time is that we are falling victims to traditional gender roles and the hypocrisy of how the gender roles are being promoted. So recently, I stumbled across a Facebook post that was on Instagram, and it was mind-blowing. But before I get to it, I really just want to say a few things. And to be honest with you, this may be a two-part episode that really just introduces the fact of what I want to deconstruct and basically criticize. I'm just going to say this for all those that are not aware. I've said this before on a prior episode that the black community is a matriarch. The black community as a whole, when it comes down to who the head of the household is, it is in most households, it is primarily a black woman. So once again, most of your black male friends, if you have them, or if you are one, you can relate to the fact that when you were growing up, whether you had brothers and sisters, more than likely the person that was leading you was a black woman. It was very, very rare to see a two-parent household in the community I grew up in. Not rare, but it was rare enough to ask questions, to be like, dang, it was common enough to see more single-parent homes, and when you saw the dual-parent homes, you really it messed with your head a little bit, regardless of people wanting to admit it or not. And in 2020, it has gotten even worse. I do believe that a lot of this is due to the fact that, in general, black people have a tendency to be poor decision makers. Not only do black people have a tendency to be poor decision makers, and this is just my observation, from what I've seen over time, when it comes to groupthink, it's very detrimental in the black community. If you deal with black people on a large scale, you will probably notice a sort of crab in the bucket mentality. And if you're even going through black Twitter, you will see a lot of echo chamber style activity and so on and so forth. So that's where I come to the conclusion of us being poor decision makers, just based on the fact that a lot of stuff that you pull from Black American culture isn't necessarily healthy. It's not necessarily positive either. I'm an advocate against, when it comes to, I enjoy hip hop for the entertainment. It just saddens me that people tend to want to emulate what hip hop represents. Hip hop is an art form that can be very misleading if you don't truly understand hip hop. Once again, I view hip hop as entertainment. Pretty much all Black entertainment, to me, it's just simply entertainment. As a grown man, I don't really let it impress upon my life like that. But unfortunately, Black entertainment in a whole is very impressionable on our children. And you see the results of that. Most of our Black children simply want to be entertainers. They simply want to chuck and jive. And there's a lot of things in that creates what I'm going to basically say is the Black male white knight. Because as crazy as this may sound, even with all the gangster music out there and all this content out there that you would think is negative towards females, it really isn't. Black male hip-hop artists for a long time have always found room to put the Black woman on the pedestal. You have songs, the Tupac Dear Mama, you got the Kanye Hey Mama, you have the Brenda Had a Baby by Pac that pretty much, it's telling you about, the poverty-stricken Black girl that had to basically get rid of her child, but it's still one of those songs that's letting you know that, hey, Black women, we here for you. I mean, it goes on and on. Quotes like, it ain't tricking if you got it. You got tip drill. Let's not even go into how the Black community made strip clubs super popular. At the end of the day, the Black male white knight is a syndrome that is deeply embedded in a lot of us, and we didn't even realize the conditioning was happening because of the fact that we didn't know how it was going to turn out 20, 30 years later. So once again, not only did we grow up in matriarchal systems in our homes, we also grew up in a system or a society where even in entertainment, it conditioned us to kind of put ourselves down and put them up. So when I find content like I found this week that I will talk about later, it doesn't surprise me because I see a lot of Black male white knight activity happening on a day-to-day basis. And when I go back in time and think about it, I realize even more why Black men tend to be more beta male-ish and more white knight-ish and more simpish in how they conduct and behave with women. A lot of Black men have daddy issues. And the same way you would view daddy issues with women would be the same way you would deal with daddy issues with men. You tend to seek what you're comfortable with. That's why a lot of Black men tend to be more attracted to toxic female behavior. And a lot of these Black male white knights, they influence Black women to be like, hey, you don't have to take accountability for that. Because in their Black male white knight ways, they just remember what their moms did. And they feel that their moms were raising them well. In the actuality, their moms were just coddling them the whole time. See, the thing is, Black moms coddle, they baby their boys. That's why their Black boys run the prison system. Because a lot of them didn't grow up really understanding consequences because they always had their moms there to bail them out. Young Black girls that are raised by these single Black moms are raised tough. They're raised in a way that the Black moms don't really cut their daughters any slack because the Black moms are truly preparing their daughters for society. Once again, I've said it before, the females run off of a hive mind. So you will always need to understand that females in general are going to watch out for themselves. Most women love the idea of having a daughter due to the fact that while the daughter is in that cute baby stage, yeah, they cherish them, but when it's time to actually start raising their daughter, they are going to look out for their daughter's best interest. That's just how it goes. I'm not saying that the mothers don't look out for their son's best interest, but at the same time, the mother the whole time is realizing, I'm not a man, can't really raise a man, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to love this man. That's what happens. So therefore, black men go out into society. If they don't go to jail or get killed, they go out into society with the same mindset of looking for somebody like their mom that's going to mommy them. That's why black males are always more prone to be Captain Savers. Don't get it twisted now. You do have your fair share of naturally red pill black men, the Tyrones, the alpha males that ain't putting up with that shit. So that's when that toxic black female behavior gets to the point where they're, they're not seeing eye to eye. So really, most of these alpha seeds you see running around with that are a product of single homes is due to the fact that these women that thought they could play Tyrone couldn't play Tyrone. Tyrone wasn't putting up with that shit. And he was like, you know what? It ain't cheaper to keep her. I'm out. Because at the end of the day, a lot of times they only wanted the seed anyway. They truly never loved that black man. They loved what they thought was the best idea of a black man. But most of these black females, they really can only connect with the beta male. Most women, especially today, that have that highly masculine, strong or bold characteristics, they're probably only going to be able to connect with a beta male that they can run over. And then eventually they'll run them over to the point where they just dispose of them and want another one. The cyclical effect in the black community, it all comes down to this. When it's all over, it produces a black male white knight. A lot of them. And I honestly think that's why interracial relationships are pretty much grown, not just because society's population has inflated, but just due to the fact that white women are reaping the benefits of black men that are pretty much emasculated. They're reaping the benefits of these soft beta males. It's one thing to have a white man, for a white woman to have a white man, and a white man pretty much knows her tricks. But at the same time, white men and black men are virtually the same. The only difference is the cultural aspect of it. And possibly, the sexual gratification that a white woman might want to stick to. And we all know how that goes. But for the most part, white men and black men are interchangeable because they're all product of a system that pretty much emasculates them and makes them simps. I've said it before. The blue pill conditioning in America runs deep. And it hits the black community in an interesting way. And to me, it hits the black community in a way that's even more detrimental based on the fact that a lot of times it wasn't a positive male role influence. It wasn't a positive influence coming from a black male immediate to a lot of these young black boys. But see, it's a little bit lessened in the white community because at least the father was there. It just happens to be that a lot of times the father was a beta soy-filled cuck that let the mother run over him. But some people may rebel from that, and I think white men, that's why the manosphere is, in my opinion, very deep with white males due to the fact that their awakening is coming at a larger masses. The black community, a lot of us are still asleep. A lot of us are constantly seeking female validation to the detriment of our brothers. I'm going to say it again. The black community is in trouble. The black community is still asleep. And so many black males out there are still seeking female validation at the detriment of their black brothers. All for the gash. All for the slit in between that woman's legs that will probably ruin that man's life. It's sad to say, but that is the reality. And I know I'm probably all over the place with this, but like I said, this would be a two-parter, and I really just wanted to drill home that fact, and I hope I did make you realize that. Don't think for 1 second that just because you see a black dude walking the street and you think that he's gangster and you think that he's automatically alpha because he's a black dude, don't get it twisted. Deep down inside that guy is a beta male cuck. The Gucci belt, the designer clothes, all that crap that he's showing off, which to me is very feminine, is all for female validation. Almost everything that black males do is for female validation. I see it every day. It's not too many black males out there that are living individually for the sake of their own purpose, because they're raised in a society that's constantly telling them, now for sure, find you a queen, get your queen. You're incomplete without your queen. They get their queen, and what is their queen? Their queen is this overweight, narcissistic, addiction-filled career woman. That's the pool now. That is the pool for black males now. And honestly, that's the decent side of it, because you can easily get you a alcoholic, dope fiend, welfare check living career woman, single mom of multiple kids. That's what we're dealing with. And the black community still doesn't really see a lot of negatives with that. They still are out here actively searching for a soulmate, and they know that those two archetypes of a woman are definitely one of their choices. But they're still actively seeking a marriage or a real partner. But anyways, I digress. I'm glad you come back to this page. I hope you rate, sub, comment. And once again, it's always a pleasure. And I hope you come back for the second part. Until we meet again.